Hello and welcome to the RECCo programme video series. I'm Jon Hawkins and I work in the Operations and Transformation team for RECCo. I'm the programme lead for the market-wide half-hourly settlement project. In this session, I'm going to talk to you about the market-wide half-hourly settlement programme and RECCo's role in it. Ofgem launched the Electricity Settlement Reform Significant Code Review in July 2017 to consider the opportunities presented by smart meters to make the electricity settlement process more accurate and timely and act as an enabler for new products and services. In April 2021, Ofgem published their decision to introduce half-hourly settlement on a market-wide basis and to implement the target operating model recommended by the Design Working Group. The target operating model will implement fundamental reforms to the electricity market to enable market-wide half-hourly settlement and improve the speed, accuracy, and quality of market data underpinning this. The implementation of the target operating model will have significant consequential impacts on the RECC parties, and RECC service providers, requiring changes to systems, processes, and governance arrangements. For those of you that aren't familiar with the target operating model, this proposes to replace the current market arrangements and market participants with a new set of services that will enable market-wide half-hourly settlement. Some of these services can be mapped directly to existing market participants or systems underpinning the current arrangements. However, this does not mean that there is no or even minimal impact to these. Target operating model will operate under three market segments. The smart market segment for all metering points with SMETS compliant smart meters or legacy non-smart meters. The advanced market segment for all metering points with advanced meters that are currently serviced by half-hourly data collectors. And the unmetered market segment for all unmetered supplies. The smart and advanced market segments will each have a metering service to install and maintain the required metering equipment. This is the role of the metering equipment manager in the RECC today and will continue to be managed under RECC governance. The unmetered segment will continue to have an unmetered supplies operator or UMSO as they do today, although there will be no distinction between half-hourly and non-half-hourly unmetered supply points, and all will follow half-hourly arrangements. All market segments will operate a data service, which will be responsible for retrieving and processing half-hourly data for each metering point, and sending this directly to BSC central systems. Even where they can't obtain half-hourly data directly from the site, for instance, due to a domestic customer opting out, communication issues with the meter, or continuing to have legacy non-smart meters installed, these services will still be responsible for either estimating or applying an agreed load shape to the data and will submit disaggregated half-hourly level data to BSC central systems. For this reason, there is no future requirement for the current role of a data aggregator, as the BSC central systems will consume the data at a half-hourly level. The registration service will provide the required registration and metering data to each service, performing a similar service to the existing Supplier Meter Registration Service, or SMRS. As this service is closely twinned with the Electricity Retail Data Service, or ERDS, in the RECC, to provide data to upstream systems such as the Electricity Inquiry Service and Central Switching Service, the requirement of this service will have significant impacts on RECC arrangements. All of these services will be underpinned by a new event-driven architecture solution, which will manage the majority of interactions between market participants through a real-time event broker. The market-wide half-hourly settlement programme are in the process of procuring a data integration provider to provide this service. What this means for the RECC at a high level is processes, obligations and interfaces relating to the metering services will need to be defined in the RECC. There will be an upstream impact to the Electricity Retail Data Service, Electricity Inquiry Service, and the Central Switching Service as a result of changes to the registration service. Updates will be required to the end-to-end switching process and associated exception processes. Updates will also be required to other registration and metering data exception processes and how these are resolved. New processes will need to be reflected in dependent RECCo services such as the Secure Data Exchange Service. Changes to defined interfaces, messages and data items will need to be reflected in the data specification. There will be impacts to the data access requirements to consider the access arrangements for the new data items and new market participants being introduced. And there will be impacts to RECCo governance arrangements, such as the qualification requirements for RECCo parties. In order to deliver its requirements, RECCo will be operating 5 programme work streams. RECCo drafting, which is the work stream to identify and deliver the required changes to the RECCo for market-wide half-hourly settlement. There are expected to be multiple versions of drafting or a set of transitional text that will need to be developed to align with the various programme transition milestones. Our second work stream is focusing on service provider delivery. This will define, agree and monitor the delivery of the required changes to RECCo services such as the Central Switching Service, Electricity Inquiry Service, Electricity Retail Data Service and Secure Data Exchange Service. Third is the Operational Readiness workstream, which will come a bit later in the programme and will consider any changes required to the operating model or operational processes of RECCo and/or the code manager as a result of changes to the RECCo. It will also consider changes required to core systems such as the EMAR and the RECCo portal. Our fourth work stream is on programme engagement, and this will ensure that RECCo is engaged with the programme and any decisions made that may impact on the RECCo parties or RECCo service providers. And finally, we have a dedicated work stream on stakeholder engagement, which is there to ensure a consistent focus on keeping RECCo stakeholders engaged on the changes to the RECCo, ensuring that this is not lost in the wider messaging of the MHHS programme. Our high-level project timeline is currently dependent on the approval of MHHS Change Request CR3. Now that CR1 has been approved, the physical design is expected to be baselined by the end of July 2022. This will then commence a 9-month window for the code drafting activity, which involves a short period to assess the full baseline against the RECCo, followed by a period of code drafting in collaboration with the cross-code advisory group and proposed code drafting working group. There is a dependency between the code drafting and the service provider requirements, as the solution for RECCo services will ultimately need to be defined in the code. Therefore, these activities will need to run in parallel and include a period of impact assessment for each impacted service provider. The MHHS programme is expected to be re-baselining its plan once the physical design baseline milestone, M5, has been met. Therefore, the later activities in the plan will need to be reviewed when the updated programme plan is baselined. RECCo drafting will be overseen by the MHHS programme's Cross-Code Advisory Group, or CCAG. It is currently proposed that a subgroup, the Code Drafting Working Group, will be established for stakeholders to engage in the code drafting process. The CCAG has proposed that the code drafting will be developed in phases by agreed topic areas. These are data services, metering, registration, BSC central services, interfaces, data specification, governance, and transitional text. Further details of this proposal are set out in the change request CR3, which is currently being considered by the programme. If you're interested in joining this subgroup, ensure that you're signed up to receive updates from the programme so you are informed when this group is formed. Thank you for watching this video series, and I hope you found it useful.